Much, Amy, and thank you, Jesse. Oh my gosh. I want to, before I even begin the talk, I want to go back to a time very long ago, about 7 minutes ago, when Jesse Powers gifted us with the talk. And Amy, you kind of joked that basically we've done it. And I'm thinking, no, that's actually true. And I know you know that's true. And what I want to lean into is if you noticed when the song stopped, Amy, Jan, and I all just sort of sat there and felt into that experience. And I'm imagining that people who were watching on Love Stream, Facebook Live, and also people who are watching this in the replay had a similar experience. And that really is the essence of what we're talking about because we don't change our thinking through the mind. I'm going to say that again. We don't change our thinking through the mind. And I know the theme for this month is beyond thought. And I'm going to go out on a limb because that's where the fruit is. I didn't say that, Mark Twain did, or at least supposedly he did. And I love that. I'm going to go out on a limb to taste the sweet fruit of this, but I'm going to guess that perhaps that beyond thought might have related to the incredible quote from Rumi, which is out beyond the idea of right and wrong, there is a field. I will meet you there. And as I experienced the song and as I'm preparing for this talk, that quote kept coming through because that's the essence of what we're talking about today. My talk title is about freedom, it's about liberation, and it's about opening. So it's awaken to freedom, liberating the mind, opening the heart. And when I reflect back to the reason music is so powerful is it can instantly take us to that open-hearted experience where even for a moment or two, we forget that we have thoughts, or we forget that we might believe that the thoughts are who and what we are. And when Rumi talks about moving into the field in my experience is the field of consciousness. It's not a physical place we go. We're not going to go out into a sun-drenched field, although being in nature can be a really wonderful experience. It's more about the field of consciousness that is beyond the idea of right and wrong. In other words, beyond the thoughts I have about myself and the world. And so, if you're anything like me, you came to new thought and thought that I needed to change my thinking. I love what Reverend Carlton Pearson said. He said, well, if you're in new thought, have one. I just think that's so beautiful and so simple because, in so many ways, what we're talking about today is so profoundly simple that the mind might not be able to grasp its simplicity. In other words, we have these moments of awe, whether it's a song, looking at an infant, or just a spontaneous remembering of who and what we are. Oh, we feel this surge of love. We feel this open-hearted experience, and we remember the truth of who and what we are. And in that simplicity, we have the experience of reality. And then if you're like me, then the mind comes in and tries to figure out what just happened. So maybe you've had a peak experience or you've had a profound spiritual experience. Maybe it's in a meditation when you start to feel the truth of your being, when your heart starts to open up and you feel that warmth come over your body. It's funny, as a person who does recovery work, that was what happened the first time I took a drink of alcohol. I took a drink of alcohol and the warmth came over my body. And I'm like, I want more of that. And of course, I chased it addictively for many years. And the short version of that is yes, it did give me that, but it was very, very temporary and it did not keep working the way that I wanted it to. But what I have discovered is it's not the alcohol, it's actually that sensation of that warmth that I was seeking because I had closed my heart at a very early age because the world began to be too scary for me. And it was in that closing of my heart that I started moving into my mind, thinking that if I could figure the world out, I could be safe. I was trying to create safety from the outside in because when I was a very young child, The innate experience of awe, wonder, and curiosity was my natural state. And if you look at a pre-programmed human, that's exactly where they are. And I've been saying this a lot lately, but it's coming up again. So I'm going to say it one more time. We come into a spiritual community, we go to counseling or therapy, we join a support group, maybe we get into recovery. And what are we seeking? We hear people saying things like, I want to learn how to feel my feelings. I want to learn how to be more present. And I want to learn how to have greater connection. And if you look at a 2-year-old, it's innate. And that's why I titled the talk Awaken to Freedom, because awaken to freedom implies that I'm asleep in some way. And the great sleep of humanity is believing that I am my thoughts or believing that I'm not already free. And that's where, when I say that it's so simple that the mind might not be able to grasp it. And so if I'm trying to change my mind with my mind, wow, what an interesting, for me, decade or two that was, because I came into new thought and I wasn't really willing to have one yet. Like Reverend Carlton has instructed us, if I'm coming to new thought, have one. Michael Beckwith told me that, and I thought that is so brilliant because I came to new thought and I had just this collection of old thoughts, and this collection of old thoughts felt really comfortable. And even though I didn't even know these were old thoughts, I just thought it was the way the world is. But it was based on the experience of being in awe, wonder, and curiosity, and the experience of coming into a world where it didn't feel safe to continue doing that. So I did close my heart. So it's like the awakening process in many ways is the opposite of how I went to sleep. The reason I say awaken to freedom is that implies that we're already free at the deepest level, that spiritually we've never not been free. And yet I'm the person who has put the shackles around my ankles and put the prison around my experience of life. And that's what happened. I closed my heart. I went into my head. I tried to figure it out. And I went about trying to change my negative thinking when I came to new thought. So I came into new thought. I was really mesmerized because I felt something there. The music, the energy, the people, there was something there that felt like coming home. And yet I still tried to figure it out. And so I want to say something that I hope is slightly controversial. This is not about getting rid of negative thinking. What? Isn't that what we're teaching in New Thought? The idea that I need to be rid of negative thinking in the very nature of that is duality. Oh, negative thinking, bad or wrong. I shouldn't be doing that. And so the first decade of my experience in New Thought sounded something like this. Uh-oh, I had a negative thought. Shouldn't be thinking that. Get rid of that. Oh my God, move to something positive. There's only love and light. Love and light is all there is. And there was this sort of hamster wheel that was happening. And then I would go into meditation, and I heard people say the goal of meditation was to quiet the mind. I don't know if they actually said that, but that's certainly what I heard. And so I would go into meditation. Okay, I can do this. I'm going to learn how to meditate, and I'm going to sit and I'm going to quiet the mind. And I would close my eyes and I would feel the electrical impulses in my mind just firing, 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 firing. And then I would fire back at them. Stop, stop, stop. You shouldn't have that thought. Only positive thoughts. And so I was in this experience of duality. Get rid of the negative and only focus on the positive. Get rid of the negative and only focus on the positive. And that was my experience. And the reason I'm saying it and doing this movement is that's how life felt. I felt like this constant, oh my gosh, I have to figure out how to do this. I'm going to be the best new thought person. I'm going to change my negative thinking. And then I would hear ministers talk about during the Easter season, the crucifixion, cross out negative thinking. The reason I'm saying that is that experience of these electrical impulses and me trying to change them or get rid of them or focus only on the ones that would bring me the life I wanted, which, by the way, for me was the ego trap. Once I manifest everything I want, then I can be free. Once a certain person isn't in office, then I can be free. Oh, they went and elected another person I don't agree with. Or, I'm at peace now. They've elected my person. Oh, wait, I don't actually feel free. I still have this collection of electrical impulses. And the reason I'm calling them electrical impulses is I want us to lean into a different paradigm. And that is what Rumi said, out beyond the idea of good and bad or right and wrong, rightness and wrongness. There is this field of consciousness, and it is just what is. And in that place, my nervous system can relax. In that place, I can start to observe the thoughts because meditation isn't about quieting the mind, it's about becoming the observer of the thoughts. And I started reading Pema Chodron, and she would say, we all want, this is a paraphrase, this is how I heard it also through my lens at that time. But what I heard her say, whether she said it or not, was, I wanted to have these meditations that felt blissful. I wanted to go into meditation and my mind would calm down and my heart would open and I would feel the surge of love and know only oneness. And those are beautiful meditations. As a matter of fact, I have had plenty of those and I did love it. Then I wanted more of that. But she went on to say, or I heard her say, sometimes we sit down and we realize how aggressive my thoughts are. And we might label that as a bad meditation or I didn't do it right. But that one might even be more useful or as useful as the experience of bliss. Not because I can see how wrong or bad I am or that I haven't mastered this thing of positive thinking yet, but because I get to observe the nature of relative reality. Because when we have the experience of love and oneness, and love is all there is, and I'm interconnected, I'm one, it feels blissful, that's reality. And so we have those experiences, whether it's meditation or in community or the birth of a child, or maybe a first or second date where we have that surge, or maybe a drink of alcohol where we feel the warmth. But then we can also realize that our thoughts can come in and take us immediately out of that experience. They're both useful, not because one is positive and one is negative, but because we can say, look what gets created when I believe my own thoughts. So rather than saying, let me learn how to only have positive thoughts and eradicate negative thinking, I can say, I'm going to land in this field, which is the field of presence, the field of curiosity, and I'm going to notice my thoughts. I'm going to notice what those electrical impulses create in my body. I'm going to notice how it feels when I entertain a certain thought. But the ultimate reality that can happen in this type of meditation is once we start to observe the thoughts and we start to have a bit of separation from me, the observer, and the thoughts, which is just it's just this collection of ideas that's constantly available to us. I heard a person say once, I'm not responsible for my first thought, but I am responsible for what I do with it. And as we spend time observing the thoughts and playing with this idea that I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts, then we naturally can go to another question, which is, wait, if I'm not my thoughts, who and what am I? Who or what is this observer that can watch those thoughts go by? Do you remember, if you're old enough to remember I Love Lucy, in that scene in the chocolate factory where the chocolate's coming by? And they're just, at a very slow pace. And then the chocolate comes faster and faster, and they start to get very frenetic and they start to shove all the chocolate. That is how I start to observe thoughts. That's such a perfect analogy. There's this conveyor belt, and there's these thoughts that are going by. Oh, chocolate covered cherry. Oh, a turtle. Oh, right. And then we name it something. And then as we focus and believe that we are our thoughts, or even more important, I have no power over my thoughts, then they start to there's those moments where they come and they feel overwhelming, and then we're in that frenetic experience of trying to shove them down or get rid of them or knock them on the floor. But the truth is we can pause and we can say, who or what am I if I'm not my thoughts? So when we think about liberating something, we think about breaking them free. If we liberate someone who's imprisoned, it means they get out of the prison. They get out of the jail. So if we use that as a metaphor for being liberated from our mind, that just means we can now understand that it's my thoughts that are creating the experience of what I call reality. We could call that a jail cell if I'm continually believing that I'm broken or damaged or the world is a messed up place and I have to fix it. Or if everyone could just do it my way, I could be free. Or I can only relate to people who agree with me. If I can only relate to people who agree with me and we sit down and talk long enough, we will find places we disagree. And if I believe I am my thoughts, then I can't be in your life. I love that people in my life have different points of view from me. That is what I most desire because at the level of spirit, the field that is beyond the ideas of right and wrong is the place where we're all one. Does it mean I no longer have opinions? No, it doesn't mean that. But when I understand, when I understand that I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts, then I can start to ask questions like, what gets created when I entertain that one? Or what gets created when, oh, I think I'll let that one just go by on the conveyor belt because I think I'll choose this one. And there is a space and a place that gets created that is beyond the ideas of right and wrong and us and them and good and bad. So you might say, and I'll say this in closing, I might say, imagine a world where everyone was able to do that. I'm going to invite something a little deeper here. Imagine a world where I choose that every moment. No matter what's happening in the world, I choose love. I choose peace. It doesn't mean I get rid of the negative thinking. It means I just let it go by on the conveyor belt. Thank you for sharing. I know who and what I am. I am the observer of those. I'm opening my heart now. And what I do want to say that sometimes in life, a significant event that we might call negative can allow our heart to break open to a new way of being. It could be a divorce, it could be a death, it could be a bankruptcy, it could be the loss of something. The greater reality here is if I allow myself to move into the experience and question the thought, because that's the way I work with thought. Oh, look at that thought going by on the conveyor belt. I think I'll just let that one keep going because I know that one creates division in the world and in my life. Oh, there's that thought about my own limitation. I'm going to just let that one go by because I know what happens in my body when I believe it. Oh, I'm going to let that one go by because I know what happens when my health, when I entertain that electrical impulse. But when I just allow those to go by and remember who I am and remember who I am and remember who I am and remember who I am, then we simply let that light shine and the world is transformed. I spent at least a decade wanting the world to change so I could be free. And now I realize I am already free. I can let all those thoughts of lack and limitation go by, anchor in spirit, and radiate that into the world. And I tried to fix the world so I could be free. And instead, I healed myself. And all I mean by healing myself is remembering who I am and allowing those thoughts to go by. The world changed. Peace and blessings, everyone. I'm, as always, so incredibly grateful to be with you and your community.